Have you ever seen a field so vibrant and full of life it steals the breath right out of you? That was Frank's field. It wasn't just land. It was his family's legacy. A piece of paradise he had cultivated with his own hands. For generations, that field had sustained his family, a living symbol of hard work and the richness of nature. But that paradise was about to be destroyed, not by concrete, but by sheer, unchecked arrogance. The problem began next door. A brand new upscale housing development, the kind with a polished homeowners association and even stricter rules, started rising fast. Progress, they called it. For Frank, it was the start of a nightmare. One morning, he woke up to the thunder of heavy machinery. They were digging, not on their land, but right along the edge of his property. Before he realized what was happening, a massive, unsightly pipe had been installed, aimed straight at his beautiful field. It was a drainage pipe meant to carry all the stormwater runoff from the development's paved roads and perfectly maintained lawns. The first rain, after that pipe was installed, turned into a disaster. What had once been a gentle rain feeding his crops became a violent surge, a torrent of water thick with mud and debris that blasted out of the pipe and flooded his land. His thriving field turned into a brown, murky swamp overnight. The young plants were drowned. The soil was stripped away. Frank stood there, his heart sinking as he took in the damage. This wasn't just water. It was an invasion. He knew he had to do something. He went straight to the source, the HOA. He found the president, a woman named Karen, tending to her perfectly trimmed rose bushes. Frank calmly explained everything, showing her photos of his flooded field. He pointed at the massive pipe and explained how it was directing all their water onto his land, destroying his livelihood. Karen listened, but her expression showed complete indifference. When he finished, she simply shrugged. "Well," she said with a smug smile, "the water has to go somewhere, doesn't it? It's not our problem where it ends up." Frank was stunned. He tried to reason with her, explaining the laws about redirecting natural water flow and the damage being caused. She just folded her arms and replied, "We had everything approved. If you have an issue, take it up with your lawyer. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a garden club meeting." That dismissal lit something inside Frank. It wasn't just about the water anymore. It was about respect. It was about justice. He was a farmer, a man who understood the land. He knew more about water and soil than they ever would. So if they wanted to play hardball, he would play smarter. He wasn't going to rush into a lawsuit. That would take years and cost money he didn't have. No, he was going to fix this his own way. Frank spent the next several weeks making calls and attending meetings. He spoke with agricultural engineers, drainage experts, and even a sharp lawyer who specialized in property disputes. He learned everything he could about water rights, fluid dynamics, and civil engineering. His plan began to come together, and it was brilliant. It was completely legal, entirely within his own property, and it would solve the problem once and for all. Soon, a different kind of construction began on Frank's land. He brought in excavators and heavy equipment. From the HOA's point of view, it just looked like he was digging random trenches. They probably laughed, thinking the old farmer was building some useless drainage system. They had no idea what he was really creating. Frank was building a masterpiece of water control. He carved deep channels, reinforced them, and calculated the slopes with absolute precision. He installed high-capacity culverts along with a series of check dams. It became a complex network designed not only to redirect the water away from his field, but to do something far more strategic. The entire system relied on gravity, a silent, powerful force waiting patiently for the right moment. The final piece was a massive earthen berm, carefully shaped to look like a natural rise in the land. It sat at the lowest point of his property, exactly where the HOA's runoff was being directed. Weeks turned into months. Frank's system was complete. It sat there quietly, waiting. The HOA residents carried on with their lives, unaware. They enjoyed their perfect lawns, their community pool, and their sense of superiority. They had completely forgotten about the farmer next door and his muddy field. But nature doesn't forget. Then the storm came. It wasn't ordinary rain. It was relentless, overwhelming downpour. The sky darkened into a heavy gray, and the clouds unleashed everything at once. Weather alerts blared across phones and televisions, warning of flash floods. The HOA's advanced drainage system kicked into overdrive. Water rushed off their rooftops, down their driveways, into the storm drains, and merged into one massive stream, shooting out of that single pipe aimed directly at Frank's land, just as they had designed it. A powerful surge of water poured onto Frank's property. But this time, it didn't spread into a swamp. Instead, it was captured by his carefully engineered channels. The water was controlled, contained, and redirected. It moved exactly where Frank intended. It rushed through his network, gaining speed and force as it followed the precise path he had created. The torrent sped toward the far end of his land, where it met the massive berm. With nowhere else to go, the water level began rising rapidly. Pressure built higher and higher, until finally it happened. Frank's system carried out its final, brilliant purpose. The collected water, an entire lake's worth of the HOA's own runoff, began to flow backward. It surged uphill, forming a powerful reverse current heading straight back toward its source. Inside the pristine homes of the HOA, residents were cozy, watching the storm through their windows. Then came the first warning signs, a strange gurgling from basement drains. Small puddles formed on the floor. Within minutes, those puddles turned into streams. The HOA's own drainage system, overwhelmed by the massive backflow from Frank's land, began forcing water back into their homes. Panic broke out instantly. Water flooded their finished basements, destroying expensive home theaters, gyms, and wine cellars. People scrambled to save their belongings, but it was already too late. The water kept rising, fast and unforgiving. A muddy tide of their own making was now invading their perfect lives. Phones rang nonstop at the fire department and HOA office. Karen's phone buzzed endlessly as desperate. Residents shouted about their basements turning into indoor pools. Meanwhile, Frank stood calmly on his porch beneath the awning, watching the storm. His field, protected by his ingenious system, remained safe. The excess water was being handled perfectly, redirected away from his crops and back to the people who had sent it. He watched the chaos unfold in the distance, the flashing emergency lights, the frantic figures running through the rain. Slowly, he took a sip of his coffee. A quiet, satisfied smile spread across his face. The water, just as Karen had smugly said, had to go somewhere, and tonight it finally found its way home.